Welcome to this week's market review and expectation. Yeah, so as I do every week, I take a look at what I was expecting the previous week against what the market actually delivered. Yeah, so this is a dollar index, and in the previous week, all these candles hadn't formed. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These candles hadn't formed, and this candle is Sunday's candle. So if you watch the previous week's expectation, you would notice I talked about the fact that I was looking for price to rise up into filling this particular weekly fair value gap. Okay, this is the lower end of it, which is denoted with this dotted white line, and then the higher end of it denoted with the dotted white line right there. And I use this red line to show the direction I'll be expecting price to move. Yeah, so if you take a look at down here, and this is a daily time frame. Okay, there was a fair value gap right here. Let me switch to trading view, and then I can have a better view. Yeah, so this is trading view, the same charts for the dollar index and daily time frame. Yeah, so if you take a look at it, the daily, you would notice we have a fair value gap right here. Okay, this was the trading week, this particular and just ended trading week. So this was last week's Friday. Okay, so I was expecting price to open up, leave this particular fair value gap, not to drop into it, because we had already wicked into it. And then if we had to go much higher, I was expecting price to just leave it and then open up, start gravitating towards the higher end of the fair value gap. As I talked about, this is the same thing, the higher end of it, the weekly fair value gap, and then there's the higher end. Okay, right there, denoted in the white dashes. Yeah, so this price actually visited that particular fair value gap on Monday and then Tuesday. Okay, and then on Wednesday, Thursday, we had our explosive move, and on Friday we had a retracement back into the range. Okay, so what am I looking at in the coming week? Yeah, so in the coming week, I'm actually looking at price continuing its bullish stand. Okay, where we are right now, I'm looking at price reaching into this particular, the higher end of this particular fair value gap. Okay, if you take a look at the weekly time frame, you see it. Okay, we are left with just some few pips to go. Okay, so I'm expecting price to open up and then try to gravitate towards that particular target. All right, so from where we've closed right here, you should see price trying to go much higher into it. Yes, I wouldn't expect price to drop into this particular fair value gap, even though it can happen, but that's not likely with me, because we are left with just some few pips. And if we have to go higher, I expect price to open up and then we just go much higher into it. You can notice we have volume imbalance right here. Okay, yes, so that's can be one catalyst to help price reach into this particular level, as I've talked about in the previous week and then this particular weeks also. So should we reach in here the high end of that fair value gap, you can then closing on this the low of this particular candle, the low of this particular candle, which comes in at 101.837, right? Yeah, so that is my expectation for the dollar index in the coming week. Let's see what the market has to offer. Okay, yeah. So let's head straight into the fundamentals. Yeah, so with the fundamentals, this feed is from Forex Factory. Okay, I've actually filtered my pairs to limited to only pound, euro, yen, and then the dollar. Okay, so on Monday there was no major news to impact these four currencies. So on Tuesday at 6 a.m. we have the British claimant count change. Okay, that's at 6 a.m. and then the average earning index, and then at 9 a.m. we have the German ZEW economic sentiments. That's the mid-impact news. And at 12:30 p.m., you have the core CPI affecting the dollar. That is a high impact news. You have to watch out for that. And then at 3:30 p.m., you have the Bank of England ability to speak. Okay, that's a high impact news to affect the pound. And then on Wednesday at 9:15 a.m., you have the FOMC member Walla to also speak. That's a mid-impact news. And on Thursday, we have the GDP for the British pound. Okay, and then we have that's at 6 a.m. and then we have at 12:30 p.m. you have the core PPI and then the core resales, the retail sales. Okay, at 12:30 p.m. Those are high impact news that are going to affect the dollar index. Okay, and at 12:40 p.m. the Powell to also speak. That was the Fed chair to also speak. So on Thursday, we are likely to get so much volatility injected into the market on the dollar index. Okay, and then on Friday at 2 p.m. you have the prelim OUM consumer sentiments. Okay, that's the high impact news to also affect the dollar index. Yeah, so this is what you have for the dollar index, and then as we know, when you are expecting higher price in the dollar index, euro, pound, and the other currencies are going to drop. Right, so we expect lower prices in the dollar index. Sorry, we expect higher prices in the dollar index and expect lower prices in the foreign currencies. Okay, that's euro and then the pound as I personally trade. Yes, so let's see what the market has to offer and then let's be much cautious with our trades. Thank you for watching.